extended myself out to that part. And like, as I become more, not saying I become more and more black, but become more proud, Yeah, like as I become more and more black and more into my blackness, like, this is something I need to do.
Yeah.
But I've already extended myself into all these places, all these white spaces. And I'm grappling with how do I do self-care, but also witness to the people who like have died before and all of these things that like the news just turned on, and but not get buried under all of these people, So I don't know if there's like a succinct answer to that, or if you just had like some advice.
Yeah, you remind me of myself when I was at Tufts. I think the most succinct advice is just summarizing what you said, is that yourself is spread in all these non-black spaces. You need to take yourself home. Take yourself back. You're yours. You don't owe any of these spaces anything. Your time, your presence, your words, your brilliance is a gift for time. Oprah just said, time's up. Time's up for that too. Time is now time for you to take care of yourself and take what you need, because whatever it is that you need is not being given back to you in these spaces. And I was talking to Dr. Coleman yesterday about the problem that we have with pouring ourselves, particularly amongst black folks, pouring ourselves into so many cups and never being refilled ourselves. Now, if you poured out so much you can't even hydrate yourself, baby, no, man, you know better. Your people taught you better than that. You gotta have some energy for you. You have to have some love for you. Because how old are you right now?
19.
I don't see now, look. You got a good 60, 70 years left. You done get everybody these whole 19 years. Come on. Leave you alone, man. Don't do what you want to do. You don't know nobody nothing. And you in college, this is your free time. Remember, this institution, all institutions, particularly educational institutions, thrive off of the free labor of their students. Okay? And you are a woman of color. You're uniquely situated to have particular types of embodied knowledges that cannot just be taught in a textbook. Do you understand that you are a walking fountain of knowledge? And everyone can put their cup out? Okay? So just remember that. You don't have to give everyone a drink of you, and you shouldn't. Because if you do, you don't know what you got. And like I said before, you can have folks run off all your stuff. So go on home and take my regimen. Now, run you some hot water. Put one of them little, put them little foam lavenders in there, like some lavender candles, give some good incense. That's how you do a good brand of kids. I would say some all back with you in the 80s, son. You looking scared. Don't be scared.
It's okay. What do you mean by, I want to hear what you mean by activism. Like, what do you mean by act? Like, what kind of participation in activism do you mean? Because, like, there's so many different kinds of ways to do activism, and just existing in a white institution is like a form of activism.
Before she answers that, though, I want to be clear about, we just talked about black women's emotional labor. So I want to be clear about demanding, or even asking, that you're not trying to be demanding, but to ask that, when she just said she's exhausted about that, is also a type of emotional labor that I don't want to have happening in this space, at least not while I'm here. So if you want to answer that afterwards, get more personal about it, that's your business, but I'm putting you on T-Bubble bath.
Hi, so when we usually think about like racism...
Oh, you're not going to say your name.
Oh, sorry. I'm Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
So like, sorry if my race is kind of poorly, but when we think about racism, we usually think about between white people and minorities. So what do you think about racism between minorities?
Interracial racism?
Yeah.
I think that there is not racism between minorities. I'll say that. I think there is racial prejudice, and this might be semantics to a lot of people, and I think there is discrimination. And so when I think about racism, I'm thinking about systemic oppression. And I don't know any racial minority in the country that has the power to issue systemic oppression. I do think that other minorities are anti-black. I also think they're anti-black people, which is shocking to me, but you know, it is what it is. But I also think that there are issues between people of color, right, which is a very interesting political phrase invented by some black women and women of color at a conference in like the 70s, which I think is very useful to kind of think through. But there are issues between us, and that's real. And what I think about that is it's a damn shame. Because of the ways that white supremacy continues to work, the ways that anti-Asian bias continues to work, the ways that anti-blackness continues to work, anti-indigeneity, anti-immigration, Latinx fear works is by pitting us all against each other, right? And the way that's dismantled is actually listening. And also not being afraid to show up and say, yo, I felt some type of way when you said that. And that's scary as hell to say I was hurt. I think that minorities in particular are very afraid of voicing their harm and owning it. Because there's the fear is that once you show that you're vulnerable, that you've been harmed and you can be harmed, that someone's going to hit you even harder, right? But this is where I don't quote MLK often, his idea of the beloved community comes out, right? You have to begin to establish this critical love ethic that I was talking about before within your smaller spaces. So it may not be that you go out and you're able to solve interracial discrimination. If you do, come. But what you can do is develop your diverse friendship set here and begin to practice what it is you believe and undo what you believe is wrong, right in this space, right? And you go to the Lloyd then? Yeah, and someone told me that the Lloyd's like 30% of color, including everyone that's not white from across the east. So that's like of 1,000 people, it's like 300 people. And that's not like a lot, you know, right? So, Lord. Right, like Lord. So like you have a prime opportunity in this space. I think it's very necessary for bringing the stories that I've heard from people of color here to do that work. How do we begin to exist in solidarity, right? How do we begin to exist not just in political solidarity, which is really important, but also as actual like friends, right? I think it's important for black people to ask, why do we have any Asian friends? And vice versa. And sometimes there's a real lot of stuff that happens which is valid, but it's also to know that there are like billions of us in the world, right? And every person that did you wrong and live did you wrong. So I encourage you, if you're concerned about intraracial discrimination, intraracial prejudice rather, then to go do something about it. Go love someone that don't look like you. Intentionally create those friendships. You know what I mean? It's a little scary. It's hella scary. And it can be annoying sometimes and then they fail in your face. But you should do it. Because that's the world you want to see. And the world you want to see is the world you must first try to live life. Other folks? I mean, I don't think you're here. I have a mic, so. We got one. Okay. Go here, there, then.
How do you navigate wanting to call people in, but also not becoming like a token in a way?
So this, and I said this a little bit earlier, more clear. You cannot be a token among people that love you. They won't allow you to be tokenized. To be tokenized is to be reduced to capital, right? To be utilized, right? In a particular way for someone to do something to you. If someone actually loves you, you're human, right? You're not this black being that we love to have around. No, you're a human being, you have something to offer, and we have things we want to offer you. So first of all, if you're in a space where you're worried about being the token, you cannot call somebody in, because you're not welcome in their space, right? You're welcome to perform in their space. You're welcome to be entertaining in their space. You're welcome to be a token or a laughable or creative moment in their space. So that's the first thing, right? And like when we're talking about calling people in, because we can talk about like families, right? They do terrible things to people in their family, whether they're queer or whatever it may be. Oprah, my favorite capitalist. Anyway, Mother Oprah has this video on YouTube, and she's talking to a sister that asked her a similar question that you just asked me. And the sister was like, yo, I love my family, I love my friends, but people be doing me wrong, what am I supposed to do? And Oprah says, wait a minute, baby. What you have to do is love yourself. And sometimes you have to divorce your family. And do it with love. Say, you know what, right now, girl, I got to let you go until you know how to treat me. But when you treat me, come on back. Right? And I found found that when you divorce people with love in that way, they come back and treat you a little bit better, and they treat themselves better. Just a little answer.
Hello, thank you so much for speaking. The moment you started speaking, I can feel your love. And I guess my question is, well, I aspire to be as loving as you are, and I'm not in that place right now. And I guess my question is, how do we heal from being tokenized when we do not need better?
When I find out, it'll be the first I call. No, I think that like one, for me, it's been realizing, I keep saying like a broken record, realizing my own worth isn't what I bring, not to the table but in any space. I know the moment I walk in the room, I change space, baby. Okay? And you might have to compensate me for that. And I'm talking about the but I'm also talking about really trying to feel love. Right? And I think I know there have been many times people I've dated, people I've fallen in something like love with. Because if they're treating like that, it ain't real love, it's infatuation, let's not get ourselves. That have tokenized me. And I've had friendships even this year that I've had to like cancel for tokenization, right? And so this is something that you have to learn how to spot and detect like any other type of danger, right? And you're not always gonna get it right the first time. But when you know that it's out there, you're not shocked by its arrival. Sometimes you'll be a little shook, but your security comes in the love of yourself. Like, oh, this person is trying to tokenize me. It's like an old quote by, I can't remember anyone's name right now, she wrote there, Zora Neale, right? What she said? She said, why would anyone deny themselves the pleasure of my company? Talking about white racists. And to deny yourself my company means you must be delusional. Then you ain't got no sense. So you shouldn't be in my house, okay? And so that is a type of politics, a type of radical self-love that you must have. The idea that someone only wants your performance for a stereotypical or kind of little section of you, a circumcised piece of you, a pound of your flesh, they don't deserve you. That should be insulting. Don't be hurt. Be glad they announced who they were. Take some time, but you'll get there. Oh, you got some more?
I'm sorry. I'm inquisitive. I don't know what you're.
All right, take your time. I'm still here.
Alright, so on the topic of loving yourself and cutting these people off who like don't know how to value your words, right? So I wonder then how you balance that with also making change, because my worry for myself at least is that everyone cuts this person. I'm thinking about how to phrase this. I have a lot of thoughts. I'm trying to.
Go ahead, take your time. You got the mic.
So let's say there's someone who says something ignorant, right, towards me and about me.
Yeah.
I can either choose to tell them or cut them out or just ignore it for the moment. You know, I have my options and it's up to me to choose what I do.
Right.
My struggle is how, I don't know, I sometimes feel guilty. I feel like I have to teach them. Otherwise they will go on and hurt someone else.
I'm sorry, what you did? You had to do what?
I don't have to teach them. You're right. All right. See, I don't know how to phrase this correctly.
That's what you did, it's okay.
I understand I don't have to teach them,
Yeah.
right? I understand that that's not my job, that's not my obligation. I didn't come with a certificate that says you must teach all the white people how to behave.
So what do you want me to say?
My question is, how can we reach out and create change while kind of remaining within our system, within our bubble? Because I feel like the change doesn't need to happen within the people who support and love us, but it should happen within those who don't. So I understand that's not our responsibility, but if we keep to ourselves and like, what can we do to like help this change? Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying. I think it's a very familiar tension for anyone that's a racial or sexual, any other type of minority, right? This idea that like, you know what, it's really dope to be in my community and have to deal with no BS, but also like, what about the world? This is never going to change and it's just going to be in this space. So the only advice I have for you is like, you won't know when you get sick and tired of it. Like, it's going to exhaust you one day. And there are literally some people that are just made to kind of be the kind of like racial or sexual diplomats. Like, they go around and kind of like are like the whispers. Or other people of power, depending on, what space you're dealing with. But like, I know that's not my calling, and like for a little while I was in college, I thought it was my calling. But I think that, once you do that for a couple more years and you start getting stressed out, and you're like, why do I only have like white supremacist thoughts jumping around my head? What is this? Then you're gonna know, right? So there, I don't have an answer for you. The answer for you is gonna be time, when you get tired. As one of our old favorite Black actor Henry said, sick and tired of being sick and tired. When you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, don't stop. But we're not lucky, got some energy, so you go ahead and whisper a little bit. Somebody got to do it, I guess. Other folks out here? Okay. I know I've been looking at you, you just get over here. Give me these intense black folk guys.
My name is Annika.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, I know now, after years and years and years, that it is not my responsibility to teach or educate anyone, but sometimes I find myself being suffocated by ignorance. And I feel like when someone talks to me or they say something to me, they just don't know,
Yeah.
How do I breathe?
Oh, why do you do this to me, girl? You over here trying to have me, I got asphyxiated. Okay, so I think that is a really dope question. Bell Hooks says that white supremacy and racism are the smog that we all breathe that suffocates us slowly. The idea of breath has been very prominent in the news and in Black life ever since Eric Garner, even before that I can't breathe, but also with the lynching of Black bodies. The lack of breath has always been the conditions of Black death, right? So I think that's a really interesting and important question. But you have to be careful in the space that you're trying to breathe in. So there's one thing about encountering ignorant people, and there's between encountering ignorant people and white supremacist people. It's like I met, the other night I was at Buffalo Wild Wings at Legends. I was over there minding my business, trying to have a dirty martini, get myself together, breakfast, little talk, or what have you. And this little white man named Frank came over. Frank, I hope you're watching this, bro. Anyway, Frank came over. Frank is from Iowa, and he liked to eat. Used to raise hogs, he said. So over here talking to Jesse, one of those professors, and we go back and forth. So Frank just said, "Is anyone sitting here?" I'm like, "Sure, I don't know if I sit here. There's somebody chicken." Lo and behold, it's Frank's chicken. He's like, "Oh, I know this is my seat." I'm like, "Okay, Frank." And I'm thinking like, this is an older white man, like 50 years old, with his like bandana on his head, cut off sleeve, got chicken in his teeth. This is about to be some bullshit. And like Frank over here eating this chicken, me and Jesse are talking about this, and he'll just jump in the conversation. I'm like, "Frank, why you say that?" And he'll be like, "Where you from?" "I'm from Kansas City." "Oh, y'all got beef down here." I'm like, "Yeah, we don't grow hogs, bro. Like we do barbecue with beef. That's what we do in Kansas City." And so he keeps jumping in the conversation. Lo and behold, like he shows a little bit of ignorance, but the pushback we give him actually shows that he's an interesting and progressive person, right? So the thing is that like Frank had never encountered anyone like Jesse or anyone like me before, right? So when we first met, he was disgruntled and also disgruntling my spirit, right? But I was able to like give him a little bit of time and also finish my martini. And it showed that like Frank actually had some commonality between us. He's from Iowa, I'm from Kansas, right? We're able to talk about our different cultures, things that even truck us to his life story. And so there are some things, I was up there with my other earrings and my Black Lives Matter, golden hoops in, doing my thing or whatever, hair laid. But so I was doing that and I knew he was looking at me like, what in the hell we got going on? What type of Negro is that? And he just kept looking at me and I kept looking at him with that chicken in his teeth. And so it really like, what it did was show that the differences between us are actually much smaller than we thought they were. So sometimes when someone is just ignorant, you have to decide whether you want to engage with a party. Because like, I'm about to take this martini and go to the other side of the bar, so I got to be my chicken eating Frank. Right? But because I was feeling myself in that moment, I decided to engage Frank in conversation. And so I think that's a decision you're going to have to make. Because when you feel like you can't breathe, and you feel like you're getting overwhelmed by smog like that, it tells me a couple of things. One, you got to create your own community. It's like you're out here rolling solo dolo, right? You need other spaces, intentional spaces, whether it's your dorm where you stay, maybe it's a poetry spot, maybe this you're going hiking by yourself with some other people, that allows you to breathe deeply. And you have to get into the practice of always allowing yourself to breathe deeply. When your breathing is off, everything is off. You're too close to death. You're too close to the ancestors in a way you don't need to be close to them right now. That's not how they're calling you, not by choking you. So I think that you have to decide, one, what good breathing feels like, and when you see yourself starting to be asphyxiated, starting to really utter the words and the feeling in your body retracting, saying, I can't breathe, you need to take a step back to where you can breathe. Think about it and say, do I want to re-enter this space and introduce my breath, right? Because again, like everyone's not worthy of your time, everybody ain't worthy of your breathing space either. You ain't got to share airway, everybody, and I encourage you not to, because people's breath is terrible. Intoxicate you. Other folks, say one more.
Hi, my name is Luca.
Luca.
Hi. This question, sorry. I don't mean this in a bullshit way, but what do you think of the Langston Hughes poem, Let America Be America Again?
See, where you gotta make me come for my face? I swear something like that to me on that Langston poem. Like, I really be trying to respect my ancestors. And here y'all got me on these bones, disrespect my own ancestors. Okay, so Langston Hughes, one of my favorite poets, as I told you earlier, of all time. That poem is a hot mess. It's just a hot mess. And like, you know, growing up, like from Kansas, so Langston's also from Kansas, you know, we don't find it off in the Midwest. You know. So, Langston's also from Kansas, from Lawrence, Kansas, maybe an hour from where I live in Kansas City. And when I was growing up, that was a poem I was really drawn to. It was the first poem I performed in public, actually. You know, that let America be America, let it be the dream that used to be the dream for those. Right? And I think what Langston was doing with that poem, even though I think it is problematic, I think it really is a political device. I think it's an aspirational device that actually tries to call into question white folks that read poetry. Right? This is the American dream that you assert to be true. If it was that, when can it be that again, at least for us? If America was the America that you're talking about when you came over and you had the Homestead Act, we were able to buy, you know, homes. We were able to get on Social Security and things like that, these new kind of new deal things that black people are not allowed to get on. Can we now have that? Can it be that generous America again? Can we be a part of this American dream? Those that were here to change and were dreaming? This nightmare that is now ours, our inheritance. So I think that if you read it like a straight, literary, if you read it like straight as it's written, it can come off as really BS and problematic. But I want to give Langston, because I know his other work, his dues, and imagine Let America Be America Again as a public critique in the vein of Claudia Reagan. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Deja. You briefly touched on the idea of like a loving divorce from family. How do you do that with a combination of ignorance and prejudice?
Oh, yes. I know my mama watching, so she's gonna be mad. I had to divorce my mama one time, and it's so terrible, but I had to. But I was like, Latoya, we're not doing this today. You know, so when I came out, I was 15 or 16, and I got a scholarship to New Mexico, went to this like really ritzy boarding school, Nelson Mandela School, UWC, and this is a hot mess. I can't believe I'm telling this story right now. So like, my mom did not know I was leaving yet, and I was like, my best friend Chad, and he watched this too, was like about to pick me up, drop me off at the airport, and like, my mom would put up my MySpace, yeah, I'm a little old now, I guess. And she was like, your MySpace says that you're bi, and I was like, peace, Mama Chad outside, off to the airport, it's been real. And so like, while I was there, my mom, who never ever, I guess my mom been to church before, was like, and you pray to God and get saved? I was like, girl. But every time we talked, it came back to like, you need to be saved or you're gonna go to hell. And I know my mom was not a religious person, but I knew that she actually did fear for what she thought was gonna be my eternal damnation. It wasn't that she hated gay people, she was like, her son is not going to hell. Right? And that's a very real thing. And I appreciated that I could hear the love in her voice, but that love, the way she was practicing it, was toxic for me. So I told my mother, until you can accept this, until you can find other ways to demonstrate your love for this harm that you fear for me for, I cannot talk to you. Like, don't call me girl, don't email me, I just cannot, because no. I would rather be alone in my self-love for my sanity than be battling whether I should exist in the way that I am with you. Don't you think I battled enough about myself before I got here and told you? Do you know what it took to see you read that and to tell other people who I am in this movement? You know, and like back then, yeah, gay sex just became illegal the year before. Like, it just became legal rather the year before, so it's like a really interesting time. So for me, I love my mother. And so for me, I had to give her the opportunity to grow. And I told my grandma, I was like, Grandma, your daughter, I need you to do that because I can't. My grandma will admit, because I cannot do that. And my grandma is much more progressive than my mother. And so she did that work. And now me and my mom are like best friends, you know. So you gotta give people time. You don't have to give them time, actually. But if you choose to divorce them, right, with that idea that, you know, I love you, and come back when you know how to love me, and you give them that time, oftentimes they'll come back. But don't sit and wait for them. Keep moving in your life, in your destiny. Don't let the dark cloud hang over your sunshine, girl. I'll be there.
Thank you.
I actually have a question.
Okay.
Hi. So a lot of us here like take classes where we learn about our ancestors, and a lot of it is kind of new to us. We're learning this for the first time.
Yes.
So how do we deal with the like emotional labor and the trauma that we experience from reading how our ancestors were kind of brought up in that sense, if that's a nice way of putting it, right?
Yeah.
So how do we like deal with like coping with that, especially if we want to go further like deeper into academia, where like those topics get more intense?
Yeah. You create networks of friendships. And you don't just hold what you learn here because, you know, university teaches you so many dope things, you have to research to learn on your own. But oftentimes only half the truth, right? Because every professor, no matter how dope they have, has their own bias or has their own specific type of training. So you need to learn your ancestors' truths for yourself, through yourself. So I would always say, number one, take what you learned in that classroom and also learn it again at home. And not just like at home in your dorm room with your friends, but you should create that network of a learning intellectual community amongst other folks that share your identity, or those that have ancestors that have belonged to similar roots. Not always the same, but similar roots. And then secondly, bring what you learn home to your mom now, right? Because they're not here at this school with you, but they're also still bear kind of the intergenerational traumas of that truth that has not yet been spoken to them. You better let people know how they got to where they got so they don't beat themselves up for being where they are. Right? So I think a couple things happen. One, when you're in that class and you feel this type of way, you didn't pay to be here, feel this type of way. Professor mad you in tears, let them be mad. This is your classroom, this is your seat that's been paid for. This is your time, this is your degree like anyone else's. So just when you see someone at a stone cold phase, when they're talking about the oppression, the rape, the colonization, the genocide, the enslavement of your multiple ancestors, being a Puerto Rican and Boricua sister, right? When they have that stone cold face, they take off that face, you have the face that feels the way that your ancestors were not allowed to feel. You be the testimony. You be the example, you be the remnant. If you feel like you have time and space to do that, sometimes you don't want to do that labor. But I don't want you to think about feeling as labor. I want you to think about teaching about that feeling as labor. You can be a hot mess in the classroom with snotty nose or whatever, and not take the time to teach. You're not the professor, like I said before, you have a PhD. You let the PhD that gets that paycheck handle that. But you be yourself in that class. You demand that the class is yours. I think far too often, people of color, particularly women of color, and queer folks, particularly black queer folks, see the classroom. Everyone else gets to ask the most ignorant questions, ain't read the book. Professor, what do you think about this on paragraph 1? You don't look at Google, right? But then you have real experiences that you're afraid to let into the classroom, which tells you that you're afraid to let in and out your body. Let your ancestors be present. Don't deny them the time that they gave you. I think that's your duty, and that's the type of witnessing and testifying that I'm talking about. Not this duty to teach what you're feeling, not even the duty to explain what you're feeling, but the freedom to allow yourself to feel. Our folks have never had that, demand that, particularly here. They need it. Other folks?
Go down there. Keep going.
Oh man. You're scared. Come on, man. Okay, my periphery getting scared, making me scared.
Yeah, I have been scared. I mean, hiking is nice. My name is Everett. I'm not going to do the whole shit thing, but I can say that, like, as a black bisexual man, it's often like hard for me to express this sort of feeling about me. I don't know if that's a word, but I guess.
You made it work.
Okay.
It's a word, yeah.
But carrying such a cis man look, it's difficult in a way to just sort of just be open to people and not to let them just drain your spirit in a way. I was just talking with Terry about this like earlier today in terms of like the whole reference with keeping your cup full and keeping it full for yourself and not necessarily for others.
Yes.
So, I don't know, just like reflecting back on that, and you being here, I don't know, has given me a bit of like courage and like sort of a stepping stone in my life to, I don't know, just become more mature with just feeling myself more out than I did before.
You know,
So,
yeah, I don't often tell people to take the advice of Beyonce. But you should be feeling yourself. Always. It's like, hey, that sounds like 9 times 0, but just listen to the chorus. Just be feeling yourself. Because I feel like as a woman's world that you have to learn how to water your spiritual garden. And when you water your garden, you water it for something to grow. And you want things to grow so you can consume them and sustain yourself. But when you got the floodgates to your garden open, you got rodents and all types that come to eat up on your fruit, but you don't eat. Right? So say something for yourself. Say most things for yourself, and then invite others in as they also pour libations into your garden. Right? So it's not only about your cup not being full, it's also about allowing folks and demanding folks that are in your life to pour into your cup. Your cup should not just be full. Your cup should always be running over. You should not just be over here on the precipice of like glass half empty, glass half full. Oh, no. We've been black too long for that. Your cup should be overflowing. People have been taking for your cup and your ancestors' cup for hundreds of years. The water is yours, amended. Hydrate yourself, water your garden, eat the best of food, smile. And don't be afraid to let your inner femininity, as you say it, flow. You know, because, I mean, look at my ass, everything is drag, really. You know, one day it's gray sweatpants and a deep tee, and today it's dangling earrings. So, you know, whatever it is that you want to experiment with, whatever it is you feel like you want to wear, how you want to talk, how you want to walk, take that for that moment. It's just for that moment. These are all performances. Nothing is going to change who you are or the ways in which you say your name unless you do. It's never going to be about how you're read. People misread things all the time. You can't be mad because someone's illiterate, can't read your spirit.
Let's say you're a pilot, and you got all these passengers, you got your family in there, your friends, everybody's there, and they're like, okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to fly the plane, you're going to fight the troll king.
Well, who's the pilot?
Me.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I got to fly the plane. I got to fight the troll king. I got to do a loop around the world and, I don't know, do something else. But he's like, if you make one little mistake, it's like, oh, it's over, plane's gonna crash, that's it, it's over, you're done.
You know what you gotta do though? The first rule of piloting, you know, and I don't know, there's been a lot of planes, I don't fly the plane, don't quote me. Don't have me but hey, but the first rule of like driving or piloting is that you're the pilot. If you were flying a plane and you worry about what they say in your back, out there looking out the window, oh, you already done crashed the plane. You over here, so you go upside down and loop-de-loop, and you carrying on, looking back there at your auntie and mama and them. We dead. What are you doing? You ain't got no gas to go around the world twice. And like, this is funny, but that's the reality, right? So first of all, if you're piloting your plane, and your family and friends are in your plane, in the ways in which you're making way for yourself through this world, the ways in which you're clearing a path for you, it telling people left and right, do this, stick to my goal, whatever, you need to stop over here in the corner and drop them off. You know what? Go get you a plane, mama. I love you, but today I gotta follow myself. Okay? Because who's paying for the gas and black folks like to say? You got gas money. But the reality is, like, and that's what I was saying earlier, like, the force of your family doesn't have to be this, like, I'm never talking to you again, but it can also be like, we have to separate it in this way right now. You have to have autonomy over where you're going and what you're doing, and it's hard to tell your family no, because sometimes when you tell your family no, they think you're breaking them off, or breaking up them, or you're too good, or you're too smart, you went to college and did this and that. But it's not that. It's that you're actually becoming good for yourself. You're acknowledging and ordering your own steps. You're beginning to practice freedom. And just because I don't want mama holding my hand and telling me to look before I cross the road, doesn't mean I don't care about my mama and I can go to her house and help her out and love up on her. Right? So I think that what you have to do is begin to separate these stages of your life. And let mama love you from over there. And you call her on the phone. And when she starts giving you direction, when you flying up in the sky, say, Mama, you know what? I got a pilot. Let me get off this phone, girl. You know, give yourself a little space, because you deserve it.
We gotta keep that applause going a little bit more.
for all the inspiration you've given me and everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance and their very thoughtful questions. They're important, and I want you to know that you are heard, but I also want you to know that the conversation isn't over. So if you enjoyed this talk and you enjoyed these conversations and you know the conversation isn't over, you know there's more work to be done, please come to more of the #GetWoke series panels that will be going on throughout the year, as well as showing up for some of the Weisberg program for human rights and social justice series that's also going out throughout the year. Please pay attention to your emails, check them. OABI also has a Facebook and an Instagram if you prefer that method of social media. But truly, thank you. I'd like to thank all of the OABI student workers that made this possible to be. And another special thank you to Tobias, because Tobias's plane had to make an emergency landing in a completely other city before they got here.
Because the pilot was talking to his mom.
So, full circle, self-care is important. You gotta pay attention to the pilot and what you can and can't do. Thank you, and I hope all of you have a wonderful